Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem.
All right, welcome Nick to another episode of the Week in Italian Startup. How are you?
I'm great. Ciao, Jack. How are you?
Very good, very good. Big week this week, essentially helping us bumping up the tracking of the fundraising that you compile every week. So good news on the horizon for sure. So starting from Milan-based company WeRoad has secured an 18 million in Series B funding to revolutionize group adventure traveling for millennials. So interestingly, WeRoad has been basically in the market for a good amount of time. They are progressing really well, and what is interesting is that they're really capitalizing on how our generation is pretty much like thinking about traveling and everything going around us. So it's a very interesting way to think about it, which essentially focusing traveling with local experiences blended with opportunities to meet new people, make new friends, and everything that you need for essentially like a millennial style holiday, if you will. So there's been a shift in the travel market. Before it was more let's get there, let's get an all-inclusive hotel and chill, to actually no, we want experience, exploration, and it's interesting actually.
Yep, I agree. The company is not so old. It was founded, I believe, in 2017. So it's been 6 years now, with the COVID pandemic lockdown in the middle. So it's basically 4 years old, because I believe during the lockdown there wasn't much traveling around. And one thing that probably it is not always known is that WeRoad is part of a larger group, like a community builder, the One Day group, that somehow touches upon these younger communities. Scuola Zoo, for example, is another part of this group, sort of. So it's very interesting type of approach to the market.
Yeah. And what is
Shall we say something about the investors?
Yeah, actually, before getting there, I think there are a few points about WeRoad, because I thought it was interesting. Is the fact that they play with these two things actually. First thing is that they play with this idea of comprehensive marketplace. So it's not just booking a mean of transport to point A to point B, but actually is to leave a lot of space to travel producer, coordinator, and maybe a fairly new. For a fairly new individual, which is the destination management company, the DMCs, which essentially are the one managing and gathering all the local experiences that actually they want to share then with travelers, which is maybe was there here and there back in the past with travel agency, but never as stressed on. So that's pretty interesting. So basically, playing as an aggregator, they're really trying to gather all the possible experiences there. So and obviously digitizing it as a marketplace, that's definitely powerful. The second point, which I think was interesting, is the fact that also they're trying to play, and I think this is something really new for this year, the fact that they're trying to play the enabler card. Essentially, what they're trying to do is including giving space to travel coordinators to actually monetize on assisting travel groups. So actually, maybe that's another professions that the platform is enabling. So actually, is the person bringing people around, and which who can become really knowledgeable about a certain local area. So that's interesting. And the other thing is WeRoad X, which is a curated marketplace where these travel coordinators can create custom itineraries. So actually, it's not just WeRoad, which is bringing it top down, kind of more package experiences, but also letting people do their own thing and selling it to the platform. So I thought it was a very interesting angle, and I'm very curious to see how it's gonna play out actually. It's the creator economy after all.
It sounds like an evolution of the Airbnb experiences idea originally, right? But more structured, more a richer one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about the investor. Actually, the lead investor, H14. H14, we've seen H14, very active in the early stage Series A, Series B market in Italy. It's part of one of the biggest media group in Italy, of course. And I gathered a few data from Crunchbase, so this is the main source right now. I believe they have 46 investments on record. They've been really active, especially in 2016, 19, and 21. I don't think they made any investment at all in 22. 23, they kind of restarted a little bit again, with basically WeRoad being one and Qualifies being the second one in 2023, which is an audit management SaaS for pharma manufacturing. So very specific, very unique, very targeted at the pharma industry, because they have a bunch of qualification compliance-wise, and sometimes they might be tedious and tough to manage. So these guys are basically working on that problem. And H14 is really being essentially investing in great companies, great and less great company, but very well known at least. So Flixbus being one, Deliveroo being another one, even Sorare, that will be another one. So very active, very aware, and a big portfolio. So that's a very, very interesting player.
Yeah, and they recently announced the creation of this holding company, Annapurna. That's probably the actual investor into WeRoad, with the specific aim of investing in tech startups. As you mentioned, they have quite a diversified portfolio. That's not just about early stage startups, but with Annapurna they want to focus. At least it looks like they want to focus on the startup ecosystem.
Awesome.
So they're getting laser focus on it.
Yes. Yeah, maybe they started as a sort of a alternative asset sort of investment firm covering early stage Series A, Series B, which is huge, as we know. But now they're kind of playing on maybe some more specific markets. That's clever, actually, just to focus and narrow it down after experiencing so much in so many different industries. So that's interesting. All right, moving on. Banxware, a German fintech that offers embedded lending solution, announced a Series A funding of 15 million, basically participated by UniCredit, Fabric, and other European investors. Interestingly enough, Italian banks are really much looking outside Italy. Obviously, on very specific application. This is an embedded lending platform, essentially allowing, especially e-commerce or basically e-commerce style businesses to get money and repay them on a revenue sort of based scheme. So that's kind of the future of lending, maybe for digital businesses. And UniCredit, Fabric, and we remember the audience. We tell the audience that Fabric is part of the Sella group, so there is Banxella, and these guys are not sleeping for sure. They're really seeing how the future of small and medium business, digital business lending will work, and that's one good bet. I mean, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, Fabric is more or less the future of banking part of the Sella group. Since they're basically an API aggregator, but also an investor, as in this case, and an acquirer. So they get bringing together all the different layers of technology that make up a bank, basically, being on the real front of the future of banking. So it's an interesting move.
Yeah. Feels like the banks are really in the hunt of future products, basically future products, future services to integrate, to sell, so that they're up to date with everything that is happening. I mean, that's how it feels like from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, changing gear, talking about food. Soplaya, Italian startup operating in a digital wholesaler for restaurant, closed a funding round of 12.5 million euro. So the round was led by Sinergia Venture Fund, and it was followed on by previous investor P101 Azimut CDP, Venture Capital, and Intesa San Paolo. So kudos to Mauro Germani and his huge team of 55 people to actually, closing this round. Very focused founder, great, definitely like a great founder in the space. So definitely kudos to them. One element that I wanted to bring up is really the idea is actually that they're fighting inefficiencies in a very solid business that has been going on in Italy pretty much forever. So food distribution is notably huge by sort of digitizing and allowing people to pick products and to actually be known on on the platform. That really solves like a big issues when it comes to food supply chain. So it's very interesting play. It's an efficiency play, I would say, but definitely well needed and with a good amount of space actually to grow and to make things better. Yeah.
Efficiency on the side, access to the other, to the right catalog of products or raw materials. So for sure, it's an interesting play.
Yeah. So another element, an interesting element, is the investor, Sinergia Venture Fund. So that's basically one fund from the Sinergo Capital family. It feels like basically they're kind of replicating on a VC scale what they've been doing in the private equity space. So they're notable in the private equity sector. They've been active for about more than 20 years, I believe, and essentially they've been like working very hard in the private equity space. Basically, they have been focusing on Italian small and medium enterprise. One interesting element is that they're also focusing on Italian SMEs that have some branches in the US. So they're really, really well aware on what is happening in the US and how exactly there is potential between Italian companies working really close with the US market. So from my perspective, they feel like they're well positioned to actually, understand what's going on in both markets. Maybe their hat is more on the private equity side, I would say, and seeing the deals that they've been doing, they feel like more private equity-ish, if you will. But yeah, they definitely recognize the potential of VCs. All right. Nick, let's go back to AI then at this point. Very interesting. Accenture acquired Ammagamma. Okay. Ammagamma. So I didn't know, I was not aware about Ammagamma before. And doing some research, that's interesting because it's one of the first companies working in AI technology and how they can provide AI services to businesses. So how to, integrate AI on a custom-based level to different part of companies, different units of companies, different processes and everything. So that's significant. I think they start really, really early and hitting a very interesting nerve. And we see the nerve right now in these last couple of years. So that's interesting.
Yeah, they started quite early working specifically in AI, I think from 2013, so they've been around for 10 years. It's quite telling that Accenture went out and acquired them, strengthening their position on machine learning and AI, and now probably there is a huge demand on the market, so they need firepower and brain power in order to respond to that demand.
Yeah. So the idea, I think, is that they're gonna keep, of course, the team working on the AI technology. I believe they also want to kind of build some interesting hub around Modena and around basically their ecosystem, so that to make like a sort of an Accenture AI hub over there. And yeah, I agree with you. Demands for sure has been like in the rise, and across different industries. So for a company like Accenture that is active on a million different verticals, I'm sure that's the time when they're like, hearing people, hearing client be like, hey, you have an AI solution for X, and that's a signal. That's a signal for them for sure. So that's really powerful. I agree. All right, let's end up with something fun. There's always a question on what is the ideal slide positioning when it comes to pitch decks. So Nick, you were mentioning a very interesting link.
Yeah, the LinkedIn post about what is the right slide order for the seed pitch. We have seen quite a few of these studies, and so now there are a lot of pitches going around, a lot of rounds raised in the last few years, and the technical capabilities to do that. We are seeing a lot of data crunchers coming up with this type of research, like what should I put on my pitch deck, or what's the sequence of slides on successful decks. So in this case, it appears that there are some slide positions that kind of correlate to fundraising, so stressing on some topics other than others. And there are a few quite interesting points in the post. So first of all, VCs don't spend quite a lot of time on the deck, like for a minute, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. That's like click, 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 click. Okay, nice, bad, and move on. So this comes from DocSend actually. So successful decks have the team in the front of the deck. So it seems the team is some kind of signal used for successful decks, to successful startups to raise money. And product appears to be important as well. If you put product at the end, that's not a good signal. And out of the 3 minutes, 20 seconds, a whopping 34 seconds are spent reading the problem and solution slides of the deck. That's not too bad. I think that again underlines that it's kind of important trying to explain what's the problem, what's your solution. Otherwise, the rest of the deck kind of misses completely the point. So interesting.
Yeah, I think the last one we saw of these studies was saying how exactly nothing mattered but the financial slide, that was kind of the takeaway over there, but I'm sure it's gonna change, of course. So this study was saying how exactly the unit economics slide super important, and more than the projection side actually. So the economic structure of the product, of services, and then seemed very relevant, but again, it really depends on the kind of service or product that you're presenting. I mean, it's really tough to generalize, of course. Really, really tough.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Very
awesome.
difficult.
Nick, thank you so much, and thanks to all the listener, and I'll see you next week then.
Ciao, Jack. Have a great week. Ciao, everybody. Take care.